Don't want a steakhouse dinner that will send you straight to the cardiologist? We did a deep dive into 11 national chains to find the unhealthiest options on their menus, so you don't have to. When we took a look at customers' favorite places for great surf and turf, the Capitol Grille was an almost overwhelming favorite. But let's say the idea of lobster tails soaked in butter gives you pause. Looking for something a little less, well, buttery? If you think the signature cheeseburger sounds like a better option, it absolutely isn't. In fact, it's one of the least healthy things on their menu. The calorie count isn't great, but at 940, it's not insanely outrageous for a cheeseburger. However, it also contains 58 grams of fat, and 30 of those are saturated fat. While nutritional guidelines vary based on things like health, age, and activity level, the general wisdom issued from organizations like the American Heart Association says you should aim for no more than 13 grams of saturated fat per day and 67 grams of total fat.
Back off. He's high in saturated fats.
And if that isn't bad enough, this burger also comes with a whopping 1,750 milligrams of salt, which is well over the ideal limit of 1,500 milligrams. There's something sneaky at work here too. While you might expect high fat and calories in a burger, it also contains 20 grams of sugar, more than half of the recommended daily sugar intake. The first question is, who orders just a plate of ribs and nothing else? Ribs are best enjoyed with sides, whether it's cornbread or coleslaw, and even if you're getting a full rack, it's unlikely to be all you're eating. But Logan's Roadhouse ribs are bad enough on their own, and that's without taking any sides into consideration.
One rib.
One rib.
I sure am hungry.
That full rack of ribs comes with 1,800 calories and 99 grams of fat, with 35 grams of saturated fat. Now, let's talk sodium, as it includes a mind-numbing 7,040 milligrams. As a reminder, the American Heart Association says you should ideally aim for no more than 1,500 milligrams per day, and warns against what they say is a dangerous average of 3,500 milligrams per day. Not bad enough, you say? Let's move on to sugar, because we all know those delicious barbecue sauces are full of it. Logan's is no different, and that rack of ribs also comes with 103 grams of sugar. That's more than 3 times the recommended daily intake. Morton's only posts a limited amount of nutritional information publicly, but based on the calorie count alone, there are plenty of pretty good options. A Wagyu filet for 770 calories? Where do we sign up? That's not to say that all their cuts of steak are a great idea, however, because their Tomahawk Ribeye comes with a pretty shocking 2,370 calories. That's more than the typical daily recommendation for calorie intake, and that's just the steak itself. There are other ways to make really bad choices at Morton's too. Thinking of adding béarnaise sauce to your order? That's also going to pile on an extra 520 calories.
Sure you want to eat that?
What about sides? Let's take the lobster mac and cheese, because if you're going out to a nice steakhouse, you're going to want a classy side, right? This side comes with calories that would be much more respectable if they belonged to the full meal, 1,360. In other words, Morton's is a great place to do dinner right, but it can also go very, very wrong if you're trying to be mindful of calorie intake. Sure, the cactus blossom is an appetizer that's supposed to be shared by a table full of people, but let's be honest, we've all had weeks that are only going to be made a little less awful by going to Texas Roadhouse, ordering a cactus blossom and a beer, and not sharing either one.
Mine, oh mine!
That's a really bad idea, however. It starts with the fact that it has more calories than most people should be eating in a day, with 2,250. Add in the 135 grams of fat, with 26 grams of saturated fat, and 5,000 milligrams of salt. And the nutritional information for this one reads like a cardiologist's worst nightmare. As if all that isn't bad enough, there's a sneaky amount of sugar in here too, 36 grams, which is about what most people should be getting in their entire day. Look, we all know how this one's going to play out, but it's much worse than you might expect. Like Texas Roadhouse's Cactus Blossom, Outback Steakhouse's Bloomin' Onion is so unhealthy that it should probably be on your no-go list, at least without about 6 or 7 friends to share it with.
One bloomin' onion.
Of the 1,620 calories in this fried behemoth, 1,130 of them come from fat. There's 126 grams of fat in the entire thing, with 44 grams of saturated fat, and twice the daily recommended intake of sodium. Just thinking about that is enough to make your arteries clog, and we're not done. Outback famously offers alternatives to the Bloomin' Onion, including the loaded Bloomin' Onion and the 3-point Bloomin' Onion. It's like someone saw the nutritional information on the original and thought, hold my beer. The first comes with cheese and bacon fries, as well as 2 sauces, and it has 2,960 calories and 221 grams of fat. The latter, meanwhile, comes topped with chunks of sirloin steak as well as cheese fries at the cost of a shocking 3,080 calories.
I was consumed by that onion, and that onion was consumed by me.
Thank goodness that monstrosity was a limited time offer. When you go out to a nice restaurant, you want to be hungry when you walk in the door. But should you be so hungry that a 32-ounce Tomahawk steak at Fogo de Chão sounds like a great idea? Maybe not. That steak comes with a gut-busting 1,620 calories, 108 grams of fat, with 41 grams of saturated fat, and a not-so-great 702 milligrams of sodium. While that's not as bad as some of the options on our list, it's still not good, especially considering that one of the best things about this restaurant is how easy it is to mix and match your meal to sample things you might not get all the time. Why waste that on one massive cut of meat?
This is about priorities. Your priorities.
It's also worth mentioning dessert options. Skip the chocolate cakes. The chocolate Brigadeiro cake has 1,270 calories, and the chocolate Morton cake is a hefty 970 per slice. Think the New York cheesecake is going to be lighter? With strawberries, that's 990 calories per slice. There are some pretty fantastic ways to eat healthy at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, from appetizers like the 130-calorie seared ahi tuna to the 340-calorie petite filet or the 380-calorie salmon filet. There are ways to go wrong here too, and some of them are pretty unexpected. The Brussels sprouts, for example, clock in with more calories than the tuna and salmon combined. It does, however, come with bacon and honey butter, which turn Brussels sprouts into something irresistible.
Brussels sprouts aren't the problem.
But the worst menu items by far are the ribeye steaks. The 22-ounce Cowboy ribeye comes in at 1,690 calories, and that's made worse when you factor in the inevitable sides and veg. Can you do worse? Unfortunately, yes. You can take on the 40-ounce Porterhouse for 2,260 calories, or the equally hefty Tomahawk ribeye for a whopping 3,160 calories. While it makes sense that a piece of steak that big is going to come with some serious calories, it's easy to overlook just how many there really are. Going out to your favorite steakhouse is an event, and what's better than splurging on a Porterhouse? A Porterhouse steak is the best of both worlds, a filet mignon and a strip steak, served together on one bone. But beware, the Longhorn Steakhouse version is one of the unhealthiest dishes on the menu. How can a simple steak go so wrong? For starters, it's a very fatty cut of meat, which is probably why it tastes so good. You're looking at around 67 grams of fat, with 27 grams saturated, and a whopping 1,280 calories. Looking at sodium, there's more than a full day's worth there too, with around 2,450 milligrams. And when you order the Porterhouse, there's a good chance you're going to eat more than just the steak. No judgment, because we would too.
Oh, well, I love to eat.
There's an honorable mention here too. Chicken seems like a great option if you're trying to make a healthier choice, but that's not the case with their Parmesan-crusted chicken, which not only has almost as many calories as the Porterhouse, with 1,120, but also has 69 grams of fat and 3,160 milligrams of sodium, making it technically worse than the Porterhouse, depending on your perspective. Steak and fries? A natural combination, right? But at Ponderosa or Bonanza, you might want to give the fries a miss. At least skip the chili cheese fries if you're trying to make a more health-conscious decision. Exact numbers depend on the topping, but even going for the healthier sour cream means 2,400 calories, 137 grams of fat, and 5,040 milligrams of sodium. You can order them with ranch instead. However, those numbers then rise to 2,490 calories, 146 grams of fat, and 5,480 milligrams of sodium. And seriously, they're just fries. And there's another honorable mention here. If a restaurant serves nachos, we're at least going to give them a try. Unless that's Ponderosa or Bonanza, who use the same nutritional information for their restaurants. Their nachos come with a whopping 2,400 calories, 140 grams of fat, and 2,030 milligrams of sodium. No one expects nachos to be super healthy, but these take the cake when it comes to unhealthy, especially considering most people assume they're just the appetizer. First things first, we're ignoring Claim Jumper's platters for the sake of this list, simply because they're meant to be shared. And even the healthiest foods piled on a sharing platter are going to have numbers that add up pretty quickly. With that in mind, let's move on to this chain's unhealthiest dish, and it might surprise you. It's the chicken pot pie. The creaminess of a chicken pot pie might be the first hint that it's not going to be super healthy, but if made right, it's not super terrible either.
Chicken's not gonna pot pie itself, know what I'm saying?
Unless it's this one, with 2,120 calories, more than half of which come from fat, and 140 grams of fat. And with 3,550 milligrams of sodium, that's more than what the American Heart Association recommends for 2 days. Think you'll make a smarter choice by opting for a seafood-based dinner instead? Maybe, but stay away from our honorable mention, the shrimp fresca pasta. That's got your daily recommended calorie count, coming in at 2,000, with 143 grams of fat and 2,674 milligrams of sodium. Maybe just go for the steak next time you're at Claim Jumper. There's always someone at the table who goes to a steakhouse and orders a burger.
I'll just have the burger. Thanks.
While that's a legitimate life choice, it's also one that should probably get a second thought at Haas's Family Steak and See, as their house burger is one of the worst things on their menu. This burger will add 1,320 calories, 95 grams of fat, and 3,180 milligrams of sodium to your daily intake. And if you're going to be putting that much on a plate for one meal, why waste it on a burger? Honestly, this one was hard to judge because there are a number of sandwiches that hover right around those same numbers. The mushroom Swiss burger with fries has fewer calories and lower sodium, but more fat. And also up there are the fried whitefish sandwich and the crispy chicken sandwich, which, despite having crispy in the name, is a little healthier all around. It turns out that sometimes when you go to a steakhouse, it really is worth just getting the steak.